Today on Practical Church Planting, we're talking about how many worship songs you should do during your service.
Well, welcome everybody to Practical Church Planting. We're in 15 minutes or less. We give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsian. Joining me is Dylan Dodson, and today we're talking about how many worship songs you should do in your service.
Yeah, now here's the thing. We'll go ahead and let you know up front. We're not going to tell you how many you should do.
We're not going to give you the magic number.
We're not going to give you the magic number. The reason why we want to talk about this is because I think sometimes we forget, or maybe we don't even realize that the number of worship songs we do does affect who's going to come.
Yeah, it matters.
The length, all these sort of thing. And so it matters. And so maybe you've never thought of it this way, so we want to talk about it. And also want to throw out there, this may sound obvious, that we are talking from an American Western context. So different cultures do different things, want different things, expect different things. And so that obviously goes with it.
Sure.
Now, here's the thing when it comes to worship songs. A lot of times we think, well, we'll just do however many we want to do and however long we want to do the service, and that's that.
Yeah.
Now, what you may not realize, or maybe what we don't think about, is the number of songs you do does impact who you want to come and who you're trying to reach. Now, of course, the argument people can argue, like, is a Sunday morning service for Christians or for non-believers? I mean, we would...
Sure.
At New City Church, to say what we do is it's for Christians, knowing that there are going to be non-Christians there.
Yeah.
But that's important because let's just say, for example, you want to do 15 worship songs. I'm saying an example that probably nobody does.
It's quite a bit.
Watching this. If you did 15 worship songs, who do you think would come?
Right.
Like just the people, and you can't even just say it's just the dedicated people who love Jesus.
Right.
It's the dedicated people who love Jesus, but also like singing.
A lot.
And so it matters the number of songs that you do if you're trying to reach. And so at New City Church, for example, we do 4 songs most often.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do 3 because we try to go 60, 65-ish minutes. So that plays a part in it. So if we have, Give Club, which we've talked about in previous episodes, what that is, or special things going in the service, we'll do 3 for time-wise. But typically we would do about 4. Now, I'll say how much my preference is. Brian then will share his preference, and we'll kind of talk about how this matters. If it was up to me, I would do like 6 songs. I think I like worshiping, and I like music, and so that's cool, and that's great. But at the end of the day, if we do 6 worship songs, even though we would say, yes, the Sunday morning service is primarily for believers, that will significantly impact the amount of non-believers that would come.
True.
Because you have to think of it this way, too. If you want your people at your church to invite their friends, they also, and you would as well, probably be a little bit more hesitant to invite someone who knows nothing about Jesus if they were going to be singing 10 songs. Now, I know that's a lot, but again, we want us to be thinking through these things. Because if you want them to hear the sermon or whatever, that's great. But if they got to get through 10 songs first, they're going to be checking out. They're going to have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, you're going to lose them before the message even starts.
And so this is why it matters. So again, if you want to do, I've heard other people say we do 3 songs. And the reason we do 3 songs is because we are intentionally designing our service around people who are far from God, which that's fine. But they would do 3 songs on purpose because they would say people don't like to sing in our culture, which again, that does play a part in it. Are we musically expressive? Maybe not as much as some other cultures are in a corporate context. And they want people who don't believe in Jesus to not be like uncomfortable with the amount of songs that they sing. So for me, for example, I would be like, let's do 6. Now at New City Church, we don't do 6. Why? Because although we do want to worship Jesus, we also want people to invite their non-Christian friends and not to feel uncomfortable like they can't participate in half the service.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the way to put it is I think the way we have it laid out works well to kind of have it for Christians, but keeping non-Christians in mind. Where we're not trying to make it so we're going to do 1 song because we know singing makes non-Christians uncomfortable, so we're going to cut it out completely.
Right.
But we also want to be mindful of who's showing up.
So, Brian, what would be your ideal amount? I've never asked you this question.
My magic number? The 15. I think the 15 was good with me.
All right.
No, I think I like 4. I'm not as musically inclined as some others as Dylan. So like 4 to 5 I think is good. But the times we do like 3 to 4, it doesn't, and maybe this is a personal thing, it doesn't seem lacking to me.
Right.
Like I don't leave, and I've been in church my whole life, but I don't leave being like, man, this had nothing. We didn't do any worship, So I think it's, the number matters, and I think you can get away with keeping it a little on the lower end if you need to, kind of based on how the worship is.
Yes.
Like maybe this is a different episode, but if worship is something that you struggle with, if we're being honest, like having a band or a good team up there, then pushing it and pushing them to their limits as musicians by trying to force out 5-6 songs maybe
So
hurting you more than it's helping.
This is a great thing to talk about because, again, we just want you to be thinking through how many songs we do. The more songs we do, the harder it is for non-Christians to connect, which is not, again, it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do with your service. But we just want you to realize songs matter. The more you do, it also, in our case, we would say it is for believers, so we do want to worship Jesus. And so for us, 1 or 2 songs might not be enough. But for us at New City, when we launched, we did 3 services a week. That was normally what we did. A large part of it was we didn't have the music. I mean, we didn't have a full band every week. We did
3 songs a week, not 3 services.
Yes,
a week.
3 songs a week. Because we didn't, that played a part into it. So as you're listening to this, you may be thinking, well, I would love to do X amount, but we can't because of the number of.
Sure.
That's great. That's great to recognize, just to know, like, going forward, where do you want to be based on who you want to reach?
Yeah, and honestly, if you're starting off small and maybe just yourself and a guy with a guitar or something like that, if that's the way you're starting, trying to push that guy to his limits of doing way more songs than he's able to lead in a week or comfortably lead, you may end up pushing him so far to his limits that you push him out.
Right.
And that's something to keep in mind. It's for the people that are there worshiping, but you got to keep the people that are leading in mind as well.
And I think too, sometimes depending on how you plan your services, again, we've talked about this previously, episode 33 and 32, we talked about service planning and then planning your service in totality. And maybe if you're the lead planner listening to this or you're on staff or whatever, this is why it's good to have a group effort, because maybe you're the one planning the sermon all by yourself, and maybe you have someone who's leading worship by themselves, and maybe they have a different expectation and you have a different expectation. It's great to come together and talk about, okay, how many songs typically do we want to do in a service and why?
Yeah.
Right? Is there too many? Why is it too many? Or is there too few? Why do we think it's too few? Just so you're more intentional about it, because again, it will affect who you have coming to your church.
Yeah, totally.
And thinking about my experience, again, part of this is preference, you know? Like if we really wanted to do 6 songs, we would do 6 songs.
Right, good.
For me, growing up, I've been a part of churches that have done like 3 songs was their primary. And for me, I was like, that was good, but it wasn't quite enough.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a little bit more. It's just part of the reason why we moved to 4 once we could at New City Church, but just because it was part of our preference. Sure. And if you're not a Christian, then you might 4. I mean, that could be 20 minutes of singing.
Right. That might be on the edge.
So that is a lot. We just have to recognize that, because I think sometimes when we talk about church stuff, we just talk about you should love Jesus and you should be okay with it. And again, we want people to love Jesus, but we have to lead them to love. That's part of what we're doing, is we're leading them to see their need for Jesus. We can't expect people to be like all out for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to remember. I mean, I don't know if you are, but a lot of us have grown up in church, and you got to remember that not everyone coming has grown up in church, and some they might be brand new to this. So we can't look at it through. It's easy to look at things through our lens and with our own background, but we got to keep in mind that other people are walking in with a completely different background than we are.
And 2, again, I mean, we do think corporate singing is important, but not everyone likes it. So you can love Jesus deeply and not want to sing 5 songs.
Right.
Like, it doesn't mean you love Jesus less. And so just understanding the dynamics of who you are, the dynamics of the culture that you're in, the dynamics of who you're trying to reach and what you want your service to be like, all plays a part. Again, we want to think deeper than we'll just do these songs because we want to do them. Yeah. Sometimes, we've talked in previous episodes about how we would encourage not doing Facebook Live.
Sure.
If you don't have the setup good. But I, on Sundays, on Instagram, whatever, I like to look at other churches, see what they're doing and learn from them. And it's interesting to me. Sometimes you see churches do worship for a long time.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do it for a short amount of time, which again is fine. It's just you want to make sure you're thinking through intentionally about it. Because that will impact the people that you reach.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's no magic number of songs to do, and it's going to be different in different contexts. Even in America, different areas, it's going to be different. And so the biggest takeaway is just to, I guess, pay attention to your context, and keep in mind the new people that are coming and the old people that are coming. Right. Keep everyone in mind. It's not like you're just doing it for the newcomer, but keep everyone in mind and try and take as much as possible. I know it's easier said than done, but try and take personal preference and what you're used to and grown up with out of it.
Right. And again, it's important because we've talked about this in episodes about reaching college students and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That it's fine. There is no magic number. You can do whatever you want. That's great. But just know it impacts the people that you're going to have coming.
Sure.
And so if you get frustrated about certain people coming or certain not people coming, we want to look at everything that we're doing and see, okay, how is this impacting what we want to do and what we want to see God do at our church? Yeah. And so picking the number of songs may have a bigger impact than you realize.
True.
And so again, there's no magic number, whether it's 1 song or whether it's 20 songs. Just understand that it impacts what you're doing, and so you want to kind of find a number that fits well with what you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So thanks for listening today on Practical Church Planning. If you have any questions about picking worship songs or anything about ministry in general.
Or anything.
practicalplanning.com/questions. Submit it. We'll talk about it in a future episode. And until next time, we'll see you on Practical Church Planning. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planning. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planning, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planning on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.